programs. And so she's a good reference in case there are questions that Lori and I are unable to answer. And she's also the one that you end up sending your district level application to, not the AIFS application, which we'll talk more about in a minute or two here.
Yeah, I would say if you guys have technical questions that aren't specifically about what we're going to be doing in Greece, that Margaret is the person you should contact, because she runs the whole program and she talks to everybody. And Tiffany and I, Dr. Sarkeesian and I just talked to, we're doing our own program, but she runs everything, so.
Okay, I see that Margaret's here, so let's go ahead and get started. And just so you all know what to expect, we're not going to keep you for a significant amount of time. We just want to be able to answer your questions. So we're just going to start off with some faculty introductions, and then we'll allow Margaret to introduce herself and her role on campus, talk about a little bit about the course offerings and the cost. And I'm going based off of what we had from last year. Talk about some of the important dates, or at least months, in this upcoming 5 to 6 months and the next steps for you. And then we'll end with additional questions. So let me just tell you a little bit about myself, and then I'll pass it off to Lori, and then Lori can pass it off to Margaret. So I'm a communication studies instructor. I teach communication courses at Fresno City, and I'm planning on teaching public speaking COM 1 while we're in Greece. So I'm going to mute myself, and Lori can go ahead and share.
Okay, hi, I'm Lori Taylor. I'm professor of anthropology at Clovis, and I'm going to be teaching Intro to Archaeology and World Prehistory, which is answer 3 in Athens and around Greece. We're not going to just be confined to Athens for all of this. So yeah, I'm super excited. I think it's going to be a fun time, and I think Tiffany and I are excited about how the two classes kind of dovetail together in that environment. So Margaret, maybe you could go introduce yourself and talk about some of the details or anything that's changed for this year.
Hello, everyone. This is going to be a fantastic program. I'm very excited about it. I'm glad you're all thinking of going. It's going to be awesome. I am the district coordinator of international education. So my job is to support faculty. So I got the board approval for this program. You're all approved to go by the board. I'm working on the contract and the insurance and stuff like that. So things that are new this year. There was always an application packet, which we have updated with all kinds of COVID stuff. So you all expect that that's new. For example, the district announced a couple of weeks ago that all students need to be vaccinated, and for international travel especially. So that's new. We didn't used to require a COVID vaccine. It always depended on what the country required, but this year we are also requiring a COVID vaccine because, of course, we want you to be healthy as you travel, but we also we want to be responsible travelers and, of course, not bring illness to the local population as well. So that's new. The other thing that I am requiring for all study abroad students that we used to recommend, but I require cancel for any reason insurance. So you might not, you might be confident, you're vaccinated, you're not going to get sick, but then something happens at work and suddenly you can't go because the person that you work with is sick and you have to cover shifts, or a family member gets sick and you suddenly have to take care of them. So that's something new. All colleges and universities and programs are responding to the pandemic. Our number one goal is to keep students safe and keep faculty safe, and make sure that if at the last minute you weren't able to go for lots of different reasons, not even COVID related, sometimes it's childcare or work or other things, that you get as much of your money back as you can. the standard that I'm seeing in travel insurance for cancel for any reason is 75 to 80% of your money back. So you might not get 100% back, but if you have this insurance, you'll get most of it back. So those are two new developments, but I will let faculty get to their course offerings and their details, and I'll just be around for support and to answer any questions students have. Thank you all.
Thank you, Margaret. So as you've heard already, I'll be teaching public speaking. Lori is going to be teaching Introduction to Archaeology and World Prehistory. And what we wanted to point out that these classes are going to be in a hybrid format. And that means that we're going to do our 3 weeks in Greece, but it's a 4-week class. And so that last week of class, when we're not in Greece, when we're back home or wherever we are, then there's still going to be some additional work. And that work is the work that's necessary to get the units for the actual course. We will be, and you'll notice this later when we start talking about our, start talking about what the days look like and the basic plan of what the 3 weeks look like. But mornings are primarily spent at the campus, the university in Athens, and then the afternoons are spent going to sites or experiencing other parts of Greece. So Lori, do you want to grab this next section?
Yeah, sure. And I will ask Margaret, do we know if the cost has changed at all? Are we good with these numbers right now?
Yes, remember that this is always tentative until like March, because there will be slight differences as they build in the activities, or we have to change activities because of COVID, but this is our estimate. We're right around here for sure.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, you guys understand they got hotel rooms, all those prices sort of fluctuate and things. So yeah, but essentially right now we're at about $3,300 for 3 weeks in Athens, which, you know, is an amazing deal in my opinion, for everything we're going to do. You all will be in a what's described as a mid-level, so you know, a nice decent hotel that you'll like in downtown Athens, or, you know, city center area, because that's where we're going to be. That's a nice thing about this. We're going to be like in the middle of Athens, staying around, you know, actual Greek people, going to a Greek university, and in your free time, you'd be able to walk around the Plaka. By the way, the Plaka is this thing behind me. I made it my virtual background. It's just a sort of a maze of very old little streets and shops and things. It's beautiful. So shared hotel room. We'll talk about airfare in a minute, but that's the one thing that's not included in this, but there's a lot of options for that. So, but once we get to Greece, there's an orientation, a dinner. The parent organization that is sort of taking care of all the arrangements is AIFS. They've been doing this for like 60, 70 years or something. It's, you know, they're professionals, so they will have arranged all this stuff for us. So there'll be like a day of orientation, getting settled in, understanding, you know, where you are, getting familiar with things and what we're going to do, and a little walking tour to familiarize yourself. And then we get started. And as Tiffany said, you know, it's going to be mornings in a classroom. We are going to try to, I think, the sort of indoor portion of this as much as possible so we can be out. But essentially what we've tried to put together is an experiential, tactile, active, you know, version of these classes. Visit a bunch of sites. As you can see, there's, you know, all the stuff within Athens, and if you're not familiar with it, there's just a lot of archaeology and also communication history in this place. So we're going to do all of that, some museum visits, actual site visits in Athens, and then we're going to have a day out on the Peloponnesian Peninsula at a few archaeological sites out there. One of the days, I believe, is a Saturday, and that is a a day trip by boat and a lunch, and then that also includes, you have access to the resources that AISS provides. So there's a student center and there's people there to help you answer your questions. You can use computers, and you'll also have access to some of the resources at the university. There are a few meals built in. We're going to have a cooking class day, which is, just fun and exciting. But aside from the meals that we have sort of listed here, you will have to feed yourself. So that's the other concern. But as I tell people, I spent a bit of time in Greece, and it's, you can feed yourself cheaply and well.
So you saw a little bit about what is covered in the $3,200 to $3,300, but what's not included are airfare and airport transfers. So, your flight there, flight back, and getting from the airport to the hotel. Another thing that's not covered would be the tuition that goes to State Center Community College District for the actual courses. Textbook costs are not covered. However, Lori and I are working hard to use open educational resources. Those are OERs, which are free textbooks. And I already have one prepared and ready to go for our course. And then, like Lori already said, meals that are not included with the trip or with the $3,300. Also, your passport and visa fees. And I just want to point out, I had to renew my passport this year because it expired in May. And we're in September right now, and I still do not have it yet. So I looked on the passport website, and they are estimating 18 weeks in order to get your passport. So if you don't have a passport right now that's going to be valid through the trip, and also you don't want a passport that is expiring while we are in Greece, you will need to get it updated or renewed as soon as possible. So let me just say that I'm actually starting to get a little worried that I don't have it yet.
Yeah, that's so long. Yeah, I know. I just want to say, if your passport is going to expire within 6 months of the trip, you also have to get it renewed now. That's the requirement. So let's say we're going in May. If your passport's set to require in 6 months after that, you have to get it renewed. So
yeah, it just has to be valid at least 6 months after your return date. And the state does that because, of course, they don't want you stuck somewhere and have to deal with that, while you're traveling. So if your expiration.
And so, of course, any other additional personal expenses that you might need or might want, like if you want to buy gifts for family, friends, significant others, of course, you'll need your own money for that. However, I want to point out that we're going to be talking about the Gilman Scholarship. And even though the trip did not go last year because of COVID, I want to point out that we had Gilman Scholarship winners, and I say winners, but recipients, still winners, and they essentially earned more than the trip would cost them. So keep that in mind. The Gilman Scholarship is an excellent way to go. And I think we had students for our trip that had been awarded over $6,000, like $8,000. I think that was cumulatively between multiple students. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the Gilman Scholarship when we talk about next steps and upcoming dates, because an informational session for the Gilman Scholarship is coming up next week. So just to break down or to talk about the important dates, and then I'll turn it over to somebody else and stop talking. But this is going based on last year. And so you'll notice that all of my dates don't have a specific date. They have a month-ish type of date, just to give you an idea of where, to give yourself an idea of when you might need to be prepared to pay for certain things. So your enrollment deposit, February-ish of 2022, the balance of fees, March-ish. transportation package is Marchish as well. And the taxes and fees, which is part of the transportation package, which is airfare and getting back and forth to the hotel, March-ish as well. So you do have a little bit of time to, one, apply for scholarships, and two, save your money or do some extra work or create a GoFundMe account. That was something that Margaret had talked about in the past, beginning GoFundMe accounts to do the travel that we haven't been able to do.
Yeah, that's something students do a lot, where they'll say, don't get me a Hanukkah or birthday or Christmas gift. Please just donate to my GoFundMe account. And their family members and friends will just send gifts there. But what's awesome, if you create a great story on GoFundMe, you'll have strangers give you $2, $5, $10, just anywhere, if you have a really compelling story of why you need the help. So that's a really good way to do that. We did have students, excuse me, last 2 years ago for Costa Rica who funded their entire trip on Jamba Juice cards, which that's selling a lot of cards, but they just hustled. And I know it's COVID and I know that you have restrictions that way, but there are a lot of options to help you pay for this.
And also, if you loop Lori and I in on your GoFundMes or whatnot, we can put it out on our own social media accounts, our personal social media accounts, and can help you all raise the funds that you need through that avenue.
I would say, are we on money? Is this okay to?
Yeah, go
say a
ahead.
little more?
No,
Okay.
I'll back it up.
The number one thing you should do is go to your scholarship, your financial aid officer on your campus. So many scholarships get unfunded because students don't know they qualify, so they don't apply. So scholarships just keep rolling over and rolling over. So talk to your financial aid officer or whoever your counselor is and say, I want to apply for financial aid. And so it's one application, and then they send your application to anything that you might qualify for. So you would be surprised. Students are often surprised what scholarships are out there that they didn't apply for just because they didn't know. So if you haven't done that yet, please make sure you find out the deadlines and talk to your financial aid officer on your campus to see what you could apply for. The other thing is, if you're in the honors program at any college, sometimes, I'm not sure, I think Clovis does scholarships, FCC does scholarships. I'm not sure if Reedley College or Madera do honors scholarships, but really look around, see what else you might qualify for. There's so much money out there that students just don't know they can have. And you can use traditional financial aid, whatever your grants are, but make sure you talk to your financial aid advisor to say, okay, if I use some of my financial aid for this summer class, how much is that going to affect how much money I get in fall and spring? So just make sure you're totally informed and you spend a good amount of time with your financial aid advisor to see everything that might be available for you.
Actually, thank you for bringing that up, Margaret, because at Clovis Community College, we have a communication scholarship. And the recipient declined it this year because she is not attending. So there's an entire year of scholarship money that's just sitting in financial aid without a recipient. So for example, if you were a communication major, you could potentially apply for that communication scholarship, specifically because this has an offering, a comm offering. So is there anything else that we want to talk about with regards to fees, important dates, or should I go on to the next steps?
What's the next step?
I just wanted to say on these fee dates, the reason the deposit is due in February is so that students really have time to plan to think about the rest of their money. So if they cancel by a certain time, they could get their deposit back, but we hope you don't. And the March deadline for the flight, we have to get at least 10 students together on the same flight, and then AIFS will plan it for us. If we don't have enough students who want to do the AIFS flight, we can still get together once we have all of our committed students and say, look, one of your faculty is traveling on this flight. If you don't want to travel alone and you want to travel with faculty, here is the flight you should buy. So as it gets closer to March, we will meet again when we have committed students and help you figure out the best option. Some students have never traveled out of the country and really want to fly with an instructor, which is why we make that option available. Other students find the cheapest thing online, like $300 with 5 stops, and you're in the cargo hold with the puppies and the kitties. But they, it's just totally what students are comfortable with. If you are a seasoned traveler who finds great deals, good for you. You can get there on your own, but make sure you're when you need to. Or if you really want to travel with faculty, we will make that happen one way or another before March.
The nice thing is I've been looking at flights to Europe because I've been fantasizing about going to see my friends, and it's competitive to fly out of Fresno now, it turns out, for some reason. I've been finding cheaper flights to many places in Europe from Fresno than from SFO, which is shocking and delightful. So maybe that'll hold and we can just, fly local. That would be amazing.
That is shocking and delightful. For those of you who are listening, sometimes our students get a better deal out of Oakland or Sacramento or San Francisco or LA, and so they kind of carpool down there. But yes, we would. You don't have. Oh, Ariana is asking, so we could do our own flight. Yes, you can do your own thing if you're not. If you don't mind traveling alone, definitely. You just have to get there. The company makes sure there are airport pickups at the start of the program. So if you want to ride the bus with the students to your hotel and, start the program together, then yes, you should try to get there at a certain time, even if you take your own flight. But you could get there early, but you would just have to come up with your own housing until the program starts. So if you're doing your own thing, just make sure that you're there when the program starts.
So with regards to next steps, I just wanted to give everybody an idea of what they needed to do next if they were interested in this program. So first off, and by the way, I just want to say thank you to all the folks who have remained interested from last year. I see you, I see the names up here, and I'm so excited to see these names again. I haven't seen everybody's faces yet. Yeah. So if you haven't already filled out the Google form with your interest, please do that. And if you already did it last year, I am asking you to do it again because it provides us, the Google form provides us an updated date. And so I just want to ensure that the list from last year, those same people who are still interested, I can identify or differentiate between who's still interested and who's not. So please fill out that Google interest form. That your email goes in there, and then we can send you email reminders when we're going to do another informational session, or when it's time for like the Gilman Scholarship Informational Session, which is next week. I'm going to keep saying this over and over again. The next thing you'll want to do is you'll want to complete the application that's on State Center Community College's website. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now because I want to show you all where this might be.
I'm sorry, Dr. Sarkeesian, could I please send you an updated application? We have been struggling with getting our website updated, so students are going to have to fill out the new one anyway. Could I just send you the new one to share on all of your media and send out to interested students?
Absolutely. And then, Margaret, who would they return it to? Would they return it to you? Would they?
They return it to faculty, so you have
Okay.
a sense of who's done what. Because some, when I get them in February, when we've got firm commitments and deposits in. But until then, you collect them.
Okay, sounds great. So this is what I'll do is I will send out, or Lori and I will send out applications to everybody on the interest list along with this recording so folks can go back to it. Thanks. So once let me reshare. Once we send you that application, complete it, email it back to Lori and I. And then also after that, if you're really interested, or you don't even have to do this in a chronological order, but attend the Gilman Scholarship event next week. And Margaret, do we have the Zoom link for that? Anywhere?
I can get it. Let me, I'll put that in the chat.
Okay. Thank you. And then I will, in a follow-up email, I will send the Zoom link along with that application out to everybody who's in attendance here and everybody who has filled out the interest form on the Google Forms. So once you complete the Gilman scholarship and we get to this point, then we're going to ask you to complete and submit your application to AIFS, and you'll need to create a login and then you'll send AIFS a deposit. But again, that's not going to be until the beginning of 2022. Is there anything I'm missing? Lori, Margaret?
I don't think so.
No, but I know that the AIFS site was up from your last year, so I will make sure with them that they update your new year with the new dates. And so students can already start their applications online.
And I'm glad you pointed that out because I was on AIFS's website this morning and I was having a difficult time finding our program. I was unable to find it. I found like their general Greece program.
Oh, okay. I'll make sure. I'll send you the link to your program and make sure they've updated it.
Oh, thank you so much. And then I can
Thank you for that.
So I just wanted to end here and open it all up for questions. I wanted to post our email addresses, our respective email addresses, so you can get a hold of any of us if you have questions, concerns in the meantime. But I'm going to mute myself and give you all the opportunity to ask any questions that you have that we may not have answered already.
So does this study abroad program intervene with any of the other programs?
Oh, you mean crossover dates?
Yeah, like if we wanted to like do multiple.
Okay, you are awesome. What are the dates for this one? Because
So we're May 23rd to June 10th. I think Cuba's going in December, right?
no, Cuba is now moved
That's
because of COVID to spring break. They're April 9th to the 20th, something like that, over spring break. So you could do that one for sure. And all of the links to the instructors are on the website. And I'll send out stuff, or you could email me and I can make sure you let me know all the ones you're interested in. The other ones going next summer are Costa Rica and Panama for allied health. Ireland is the honors program and they're doing literature and Irish culture. Italy is art, drawing, and design in Florence. Oh, and we are doing a CTE entrepreneurship program in Mexico, but we don't have dates for that yet. So you could definitely do Cuba and Greece, but the other ones that I mentioned in summer, there might be some overlap. So all of the dates will be on the district website, and I'll be sending out emails as well. So you could do two in the summer, depending on the travel dates. Some of those are still a little fluid. What we're doing and what my job is part of is risk management. So I constantly monitor all the country sites. Like up until a while ago, many European countries required a 2-week quarantine. Well, now that most Americans are vaccinated, if you can show proof of your vaccination, you don't have to do a 2-week quarantine in country before you start your program. So all of those kinds of things. So I wish I could promise you exact dates right now, but because of COVID, things are a little fluid, but I can definitely send planned dates to all of you. So please email me if you're interested in any of the other programs as well.
So on your question.
Go ahead, Lori.
Ariana says
Yeah.
you mentioned something about the class being hybrid. How are we doing that last week of class back home? Are we staying in Beach for 2 weeks or the whole time?
So here's the thing, summer school classes are typically in the schedule like 4-week classes or 6-week classes. And so what Lori and I did is we created a 4-week class, a 4-week Comm 1 class and a 4-week Anthropology 3 class. And so 3 of the 4 weeks are in Greece, and that last week, which we call the fully online week, is wherever you are, you're completing additional coursework, and that additional coursework is to meet the requirements for the course in order to earn the units of credit. In each course is a 3-unit course. And I believe Ariana had a follow-up question. That honors trip to Ireland conflicts with this, but it wouldn't if that last week was online. So again, Comm 1 and Anthro 3 are 4-week classes. However, 3 of the 4 weeks are face-to-face in Greece, and that last week is fully online. And again, you don't have to be in Greece. You don't have to be in the United States. It's wherever you are, you complete that additional coursework.
So yes, like, Ariana, if you did want to go from Greece to Ireland and start that program, you could technically finish your Greek program online while you're starting your Irish program. So yeah. Can we travel during the trip on your own? Yes, during free time, but
sorry, I don't know what happened.
Yeah, you froze for a bit. Yay, you're back. You do need to make sure you're completing all of your coursework because this is still study. But if you do have free time and you travel, the only thing is that AIFS or we will have an app that will track you just to make sure you're safe. So if you want to do, if you say, I'm going to go to Barcelona this weekend, you would need to give us how you're getting there, flight or train, or where you're staying in the hotel, just so that safety, right? So everyone knows where you are and that you're okay. Do we have to register for this on WebAdvisor as we would for other classes? Yes, but these classes are, what do they call it? Submerged or compressed? No, they're only offered to the students on the study abroad. So they won't be in the general catalog because this is for students going to Greece. So we will give you the schedule numbers when the deans assign those schedule numbers. Tiffany and Lori, did your deans already give you that or?
No.
Okay. My dean has not, but my dean is fully aware of it and
good. What else? Anybody else have questions? I would like to recommend and just reiterate what your faculty have already said. We paid extra to rush our son's application, and it still took, like, rush was 10 to 12 weeks. So if you don't want to pay the extra to have it in 12 weeks, Make sure that's the number one thing I would do. Well, two top things. Meet with your financial aid advisor to see what money's available to you and apply for your passport as soon as possible if you don't already have one.
And just check your passport. If you have one, make sure you know when it expires, because again, if it expires before the end of 2022, like even December, you need to renew it before you leave, because they won't, as Margaret said, they don't want you getting stuck somewhere.
And they'll check that as you enter Greece and they'll say, oh no, this expires in 4 months. You can't get back into the US. Right now, the US is requiring negative testing before you return on a flight. So the company AIFS will organize that for us. So all of you will get a negative test if that's still a requirement. Those requirements are changing constantly. But if you need a negative test before you come back, they will organize that for you. Else. Yeah, put on your next steps, meet with financial aid advisor. It's so important. Or did you already do that? Okay. It's so important just because students often don't know what they qualify for, and you're leaving money on the table by not finding out. For the Gilman
Yeah.
Scholarship next week, you just need to qualify for the Pell Grant and be a US citizen. So if you are not a citizen, the first time I traveled in study abroad with Reedley College to London, I had been born in Mexico, so I was a Mexican citizen. I had naturalized Canadian citizenship, and I had my passport through Canada, and I was a US green card holder. Everything was different back then, but at every border, because we traveled a lot, I was there for 4 months, people were like, shut up, pick a country. It was super confusing, but I had to make sure that I could get back to the US. We've only had this happen one time, but we had a student who was not a citizen traveling on a green card and a passport from another country and did have trouble coming back. You can imagine how unhappy his family was with us. So make sure that's all you. We don't have a passport lawyer or an immigration lawyer or anything like that. So you need to make sure you can come back into the country. So please apply for your passport as soon as possible. Or if you're not a US citizen, figure out how you're going to leave our country and get back home. We don't want your family mad at us. Gosh, anything else?
I do have a question. Is there still a possibility that this trip may be canceled again, or is this one kind of more like certain that it will go through?
This one's more probable. We
Okay.
don't know what COVID variants are coming up. There's so much that we can't control, but I promise we will cancel before your refund date. So by March, we will know. We're not going to risk it or say, oh, let's just try if it means students are going to lose money. So if there's a new variant or Greece closes its border or something happens, you will know by March so that you don't lose any money. But this is the most hopeful we've been in 2 years because of treatments, because of vaccinations, and because the world is opening up, albeit carefully. You're probably still going to have to wear masks in any public space or inside. You might need to get tested. Everything's just different. You might need a booster shot or a different vaccination, depending on what COVID variants are out in between now and February. So I cannot promise anything, but this is as hopeful as we've been in 2 years. So I'm fairly confident all will be well. But this is why we strongly recommend you getting the cancel for any reason insurance. And this is why we assess everything before your payment deadlines to make sure you don't lose money.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. And I interrupted you earlier, Lori. You had another thought. I'm sorry about that.
Could not
Oops.
possibly remember what it was. I'm
Sorry.
sorry. I'm a little under the weather too, so my brain's a little foggy this morning.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Gilman Scholarship, we just talked for 2 hours. I tell you about all the study abroad programs. We go through the Gilman application. We give you all that advice. We do it in mid-September because it's due in early October, and that gives you 2 weeks to make sure that you get your essays read by someone like the writers, and that you get all of your transcripts. And so I do hope you come to the Gilman Scholarship Workshop next week, which is, I put it in the chat, but it's Wednesday night. We did it at night just in case students were at work or class all day. And if you can't make that, I will still share all of the resources. So if you are eligible for the Pell Grant and a US citizen, please come to the workshop next week. They do have another one. It's the Gilman McCain Scholarship. If you're a dependent of an active military server. So if you have a guardian or parent in the military now and you are a dependent, you also qualify for the Gilman McCain Scholarship. And they give up to $5,000. You know, the average for our students is anywhere from $1,500 to $4,500. So it's a fantastic scholarship. You should definitely apply for. But they do have some requirements. So I hope I see you at the workshop next week.
Any more questions, y'all? Oh, are you able to send the Gilman link through email or another form? I'm unable to copy and paste it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I'll share it with faculty and they'll send it out to you. Sorry about
Yeah.
that. I'm not sure why that.
We can include it with the new application link, right?
Yes.
Tiffany?
So we'll send a follow-up email either today or tomorrow so that you will have Zoom link, an updated application, and a recording of this session in case you want to go back to something. Any other questions? Well, thank you so much, everybody, for those of
Yeah,
you who are
you.
new and were not part of this discussion last year. And to those of you who are still interested in study abroad in Greece, we are super excited and extremely hopeful that we will get to travel this next year.
Mhm.
Definitely.
And if you don't end up going to Greece, go somewhere, please. Like, go attend the Gilman Scholarship meeting, listen to the other programs, like just take advantage of it because this is a remarkable opportunity that most people don't get. So if it's not us, let it be somebody else.
Oh, that is so generous. We do have 6 programs going next year, but they're all such different destinations and classes that and students are just so excited to get the heck out that I am confident that we will get the numbers we need. But this is, you know, as your faculty said, such a great way to travel. Somebody else is planning everything. We often have community members who go through our study abroad, even though they don't need the classes and, you know, they've already had careers, they might be retired or they're working, but they love our programs because somebody else has planned all your activities, your housing, you know, your insurance, your travel. So it's a really safe way to experience the world, but it's also richer because you're getting an academic view of Greece. You're not going like the average tourist who just gets tickets at booking.com and, you know, goes to all the crowded places. You're going with faculty who can help you experience Greece in a much more rich way. So I really hope that you plan on doing this, and we are here to support you for everything that you need to get you out there. I have a kitten on my lap. I apologize. She's kind of needy.
Oh, is she kissing you?
She was a rescue and they took her too soon from her mom. So she constantly nurses on all of us. It's kind of gross on my neck or arm.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, she's needy. She's a mess.
Oh, thank you, Margaret. That was great. Actually, everything you just said was wonderful.
Yeah, it'll be
I'm
an awesome.
very excited. I feel good. I feel like we're gonna do it this time. What was said about the application? Something about the one. Oh yeah, we're getting a new application form. So there is one on the site. Don't fill it out yet. We're gonna send you all a new one and put up a new one on our informational page. So just give us a couple days before you fill out the application because Margaret has to send an updated one to us first.
Any last final questions? And again, if any questions come up in the meantime, feel free to email us and we will, respond to your emails. We will also get an email out to you, a follow-up email out to you by the end of tomorrow. I'm going to work hard to do that. But thank you all for showing up this morning. Have a great weekend. And we so look forward to going to Greece with those of you who remain interested in it.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.